Hello everyone, Andy here, and here's what you can look forward to in today's episode.
In today's episode, we kickstart the 2025 team season previews, and Team 1 out of 32 is the Buffalo Bills, as I was joined by Bills fans Charlie Nelson and David Kaprosch. David talked about how the Bills can finally get over the Chiefs playoff hump.
You've done everything else. Your resume is fantastic. Outside of the 4 losses to them, this is the Colts and the Patriots of the the early 2000s.
Charlie gives his feelings as the Bills play their final season at Highmark Stadium.
When I started being a Bills fan, which is in the 90s, that was the stadium that was almost a mythical place to me.
And both David and Charlie compile their overall 2025 record prediction. Hope you enjoy.
Hello and welcome back to the Across the Pod NFL podcast. I am, as ever, your host, Andy Davis, and it's that time of year again. We are once again doing our team season previews. We are doing an episode per team with a fan of every team, and today's episode is all about the Buffalo Bills. Now, before I introduce my guest, I want to quickly reveal the answer to our last episode, which asked a quiz question: which superhero movie inspired the theme tune to the NFL on Fox coverage? And the answer was Batman. So if any of you at home who got it right, congratulations. And let's head in to the episode, which is our first out of 32. It is the Bills, and we've got 2 special Bills fans with us today, both returning to the show. And our first returning guest is a member of the UK Bills backers and British Bills podcast, Bills from Afar, I should say. It is Charlie Nelson. Charlie, how are you?
Yeah, I'm great, thank you. Good to be back on, Andy. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's good to have you back on. It's got to be, a few months since you last came on. I always get you and our other guests coming on in a minute. I always get you on. Normally you for the Miami game and David for the Buffalo game. And yes, it must have been a fair while since we spoke on the podcast. Maybe in the playoffs, I might have got you on for the playoffs, but certainly it's been a good few months since I last saw you. How have you been?
Yeah, very well, very well. I mean, just counting down to the start of the next season, really. That's probably everybody else's. I always enjoy the draft, so that always keeps me occupied between the Super Bowl and and that phase. So I do a lot of scouting of players heading into that. But then I'm in this sort of the dog days of the off season now. So we're just counting down to training camp and getting things moving. The good news is, of course, that the Bills will be on Hard Knocks this year, so we won't have to wait too long for a bit of good Bills content.
Yeah, that's always one of the funner parts of the off-season. And we are recording this episode a couple of weeks before it's released. So first of all, any trade news happens or any sort of news happens within a time and you haven't heard it mentioned, that is why. But at the time of recording today, they have released on Netflix the second series of Quarterback. So that should be a fun little, another one of those fun off-season programs with Joe Burrow, Kirk Cousins, and I've just forgotten who the third person is, but that is all.
I think.
Thank you. Yeah, I couldn't think of the last person was, but
it's because he's a charisma vacuum. It's difficult to remember.
Well, our second guest is another Bills fan, another returning guest to the show, all the way from Buffalo in New York. With us today is Hit the Showers, David Kaprosch. David, how are you?
Gentlemen, how we doing? We're good. Fantastic.
All good.
Summer, like I said, summer in Buffalo.
Yeah, I mean,
thanks for having
I've only been to Buffalo in the summertime, or in the wintertime or autumn time. Is it warm in the summer in Buffalo? What kind of temperatures do you normally hit in Buffalo this time of year?
Fahrenheit, looking at mid 80s, anywhere between 80 and 90 degrees. It does. I mean, it might get a couple degrees above 90, but we got Lake Erie. That's our air conditioner, as we call it here. You get a nice breeze off the lake, and the summers are fantastic here. You can't beat them. You ain't got to worry about hurricanes or tornadoes or anything crazy. People can laugh at us about our snow in the winter, but I'll take that over the aforementioned hurricanes and tornadoes. So,
well, talking of fantastic, it was a fantastic season last year for the Bills. You did reach the AFC Championship game, did fall short to the Chiefs. but you were once again the division winners, continuing a great streak since 2019 of winning that division. Maybe 2020, but heading on to the off-season in general. So the Bills have made a few ins and outs, and the main highlight ones include Josh Palmer, Joey Bosa, Larry Ogunjobi, Tre'Davious White, Elijah Moore, Laviska Shenault, Kendrick Green, and Shaq Thompson. And the main outs include the likes of Von Miller, Micah Hyde, Will Clapp, Kareem Jackson, Matt Collins, Amari Cooper, as well as Jordan Phillips and Kaya Elam, who was traded to the Dallas Cowboys in exchange for a 2025 fifth and seventh round pick. The seventh round pick comes from the following year in exchange for a 2025 sixth rounder. And in the main sort of three, there were 9 players picked in the draft by the Bills, and the first 3 taken were cornerback Maxwell Hairston out of Kentucky, defensive tackle TJ Sanders, 41st overall out of South Carolina, and Landon Jackson, defensive end out of Arkansas, 72nd overall. So, Charlie, over to you first. Your thoughts on the overall Bills offseason?
Yeah, it's been an interesting one. I mean, there's obviously a clear plan to try and rebuild the defensive line. We just haven't been getting enough pressure on opposition quarterbacks, especially in the playoffs and especially against the Chiefs. And so we've brought in 6 new defensive linemen, 3 draft picks, 3 draft picks and 3 off-season signings. So I think that it's clear that they want to make a change there. We needed a cornerback too, so fantastic bringing Max Hairston. I think he'll be a good asset for us. His speed is really impressive. I think that if that works out, we're going to have a really nice secondary again, although there are some questions about safety, and I think a lot of people would like to see them strengthen that position. On the offensive side of the ball, not too much changes. We've got, I think we upgraded the wide receiver room, but we bring back the same offensive line, which has been tremendous. We bring back the same running back room, which was really impactful last year. And of course, Josh is Josh. So I think it's the offseason that we needed. I think there's some exciting players that have been brought in. I've got my eye very much on Landon Jackson. I think he could be really interesting for us at edge. Who knows what you get out of Joey Bosa? Obviously his injury record is well publicized. So, it's very, very much a bit of a swing, that one. And I think the contract that they're paying him kind of much speaks to that. So it's been an interesting offseason. I think we should be better, and coming off a pretty high position. The one weakness that we had last year was the defense, and they're definitely going all out to try and strengthen that.
Absolutely. And David, the Bills were a lot of talk of last offseason and, about the losses you had, and most notably Stephon Diggs, but you sort of proved that, you can lose players, but still, as long as you got the right sort of team ethic, the right sort of rightly run off sort of franchise behind the scenes, and as long as you've got the team togetherness, and I think that shows that no matter what happens, as long as you've got the core guys there doing the business, and a few players lost here and there, it doesn't make a difference. So for you, David, I mean, I think Von Miller is the most notable out of the team, most notable departure because of the name, but I don't think he exactly set the world alight at the Bills. But obviously, Matt Collins had success in parts last year. Micah Hyde, and David's just gone. We'll try to get David back at some point. Hopefully, he returns at some point. But yeah, I mean, the Bills have lost, some guys who've been key to the dressing room, locker room, I should say, like Micah Hyde I mentioned then. We'll stick with you, Charlie. I mean,
yeah,
does that sort of prove that, as long as you've got the coaching right and the scheming right and the quarterbacks there, defensive line, do you think that a few people here and there being gone makes no real difference? Or do you think it was just Stephon Diggs that was the problem? Maybe other teams would suffer more from those losses?
I think whenever you lose in a similar way each season in the playoffs, there's always that temptation to blow it up. I think that the Bills have done well to resist the idea of blowing it up. I mean, Micah Hyde actually was essentially, not there from the previous season. He just came in really to help out as much as sort of a player coach as much as anything else. So he's a big character. It wouldn't surprise me if he came back as a coach at some point. Von Miller, as you mentioned, he's a big culture guy. I think sure some of the younger defensive ends learned quite a bit from him, but the reality is, he's not the player he used to be, and we didn't get the production out of him that we were expecting or hoping for when we signed him. So I think we're actually going to be upgrading many of these position groups. Safety does concern a lot of us, but of course we can compensate for that if we can get more pressure from this upgraded defensive line. Personally, I have slight concern about one tech. I would love a bigger body there just to soak up the double teams, but clearly the Bills don't agree with me. But I think that the coaches, by and large, have been enormous for this team. Bobby Badridge will go into his second year on the defensive side of the ball. We're really happy with our offensive line coach. And I think Joe Brady is really proving himself to be one of the talents on the offensive side of the ball. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of all the right stuff is coming back. And we've shipped out the areas where we needed to make some changes. So I feel pretty comfortable about this coming season.
Well, we've got David back. He is back in the room. We don't know where he went, but he is back with us once again. Now, David, I think the connection might still be an issue. It looks like the pause photo isn't great of David there. I'm not going to lie. It's I think is he back in the room? David, can you hear me?
Oh yeah, I'm clear.
Great.
You guys hear me?
We can hear you fine. We can hear you fine. Now, David, Charlie touched on Joe Brady there. I mean, he joined halfway through a season where you were struggling, took over as the offensive coordinator. And if you look at that second half of the season you guys had, where you had a great streak, you ended up sneaking into, stealing the division off the Dolphins and, doing well there. And in the following season, you make the AFC Championship game. Josh Allen's MVP, had his best year in his career, arguably. And he had that one game where he had, he threw for a touchdown, ran for a touchdown, caught a touchdown. Just what kind of job is this? How good a job has he done? Because you go to every home game, you go to a lot of away games. Charlie as well, you've been to a lot of games. But for you, David, I mean, having watched Bills games for years and years, how impressed have you been with the job Joe Brady's done in the last year and a half since being the OC?
I think with both our offensive and defensive coordinators, Babich and Brady, I wouldn't say I don't want to use the phrase on-the-job training, but you could tell how much, especially Brady, with the offense last year, with what with the components he has to run his offense. And I think you're going to see probably another notch better, knock on wood, offensively with, another year under his belt. Again, God willing, 17 days upright and, injury free. I mean, he's the motor for this offense, of course. But I think just another year under his belt offensively, and with the guys they picked up on free agency, and and with a strong offensive line, I think, averaging 30 points a game, I think they can average that and more this season, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and of course that comes with the territory having Josh Allen and such a great offense, James Cook as well. One of the highlights of last year, his sort of career year. But, that leads into our first real question I want to talk about is the Chiefs hump. I mean, the Bills have looked good every year. They've won division after division. They've won multiple playoff games. But there's one thing that is clouding over the whole of the Bills' success with Sean McDermott and Josh Allen is the Chiefs' kryptonite, it seems, at the moment. I mean, 4 losses now in the playoffs to the Chiefs, 2 of them coming in the championship game. And Josh Allen, I think he's done all he can now, half from winning an AFC Championship. I mean, I said before, he's won a MVP. He's had some great years and been one of the best quarterbacks in the league the last few years. But until he beats the Chiefs, that's always going to sort of reign over his head. I view it exactly like what Peyton Manning had with Tom Brady. For years and years, couldn't beat Tom Brady when he was with the Colts, and then eventually he did. And until that point came, he was always seen as someone who couldn't get done in the playoffs. And at the moment, that is the one thing surrounding Alan's career, is that, that lack of success when it matters. And, I moan about, having only seen us play as a Dolphins fan 3 playoff games in total in my 14 years. At least I've not had to deal with, the sort of the teasing you part of it, and getting your hopes up and giving you that sort of false hope that you're going to make a Super Bowl. At least I get my hope shot down early. So I can imagine what you guys go through with not only the 4 Super Bowl losses in the Mark Levy and Jim Kelly era, but then moving forward to nowadays having the constant defeats by Kansas City. David, I mean, what have the Bills got to do? Because it's one of those things where, personally, I don't know what more they can do. I mean, the defense has probably been the main catalyst why they haven't beaten the Chiefs. But, what more can the Bills do? Because they've had so many opportunities and it's been so many, chances. And there's a good chance, once again, that this year they're going to be playing them in the playoffs. You would think the Chiefs will play either the Bills or the Ravens come the playoffs, and especially the divisional round or the championship game. What do you think it will take for the Bills to finally get over this Chiefs hump?
Just the moves they made in the offseason defensively, as well as the draft. I think you got to put more pressure on them. If you look 2 years ago, I mean, yeah, it was a regular season game with a healthy Von Miller before he blew out his knee. I mean, they were getting after him. And if Bosa can give you half of those snaps, because he's going to play situational football. He's not playing three downs. Second and long, third and long, wherever the case. And I think for me, the number one thing is you got to get the number 1 seed. I mean, you've done everything else. You've had years of the 2 seed. You got to get the 1 seed and give me and play 2 games, 3. I mean, I think that plays into it too. You've done everything else. Your resume is fantastic. Outside of the 4 losses to them, this is the Colts and the Patriots of the the early 2000s. I mean, until they knock out the king, just give me the 1 seed. Give me the 1 seed, and I'll take another swing at the at the king. I mean, I'll keep doing this until 17 and 15 retire. I don't care. Well, if it guarantees me this every year, it's just right, Charlie. We just keep taking our hacks, man. Just whatever.
You keep going. Yeah.
If we got to go down, but I would love just give me a 1 seed and an AFC championship game in this building to close it out before moving across the street. That for me, at 60 years old, that would be fantastic.
And I think they've got a great chance this year. I mean, they really do need the bye, the late bye, and the 1 seed this year, because we got an early bye in week 7. So that's never great for winning a Super Bowl. At least the statistics say that it isn't. But I think the big opportunity for the Bills is that division, that AFC West division, has got harder. I think you've seen Las Vegas improve. You've seen Denver improve. I don't know if we're going to see an awful lot more out of the Chargers, but that division's got harder. And frankly, the Chiefs got away with 1 or 2 games last year that they probably shouldn't have done. The best thing the Bills can do is take on the Chiefs in week, whatever it is, week 8, beat them at home. Make sure you've got that tiebreaker and go after that 1 seed. Hopefully then the Chiefs have to play the Ravens somewhere in the playoffs and we don't have to face them at all. Or we got to play better. I mean, the reality is we just didn't play very well in that AFC championship game. And we've been playing well, but our defense really didn't do too much. And I just thought we were not at our best. I think mentally it wasn't our best performance. Drop catches. There were opportunities to go win that game. We just didn't execute. So if we can get some combination of the 1 seed, not having to play them, I think, then this upgraded defensive line, hopefully some combination of that stuff is going to be enough.
You both make great points, because I was watching literally about 4 or 5 days ago. I was watching the Man in the Arena Tom Brady documentary. Talking about how crucial it was when they played each other in the regular season, about how crucial it was to win that game because of how crucial the home field advantage is when it comes to the playoffs. Because most years, year after year, Manning would play Brady, and most years it would be played in New England. And then it went to Indianapolis, and I believe that's when Manning finally beat Brady and made the Super Bowl and ultimately won it against the Bears. And, even though, Allen has beaten Mahomes, I think, the most out of any quarterback in the regular season, 3 or 4 times now. But then when it comes to the postseason games, exactly what you're saying, you need that home field advantage because whenever he's played him in the playoffs, it's always been on the road. It's always
Allen doesn't typically play badly, in the playoffs. He doesn't have bad playoff games. But the defense has been letting us down consistently. In the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that's key to get the Bills Mafia in Highmark Stadium, and I think that's ultimately the key because they proved that they can beat Mahomes and they can beat the Chiefs. In regular season games, even games in Arrowhead, I believe they won one in 2022 in Arrowhead. But it's when it comes to those postseason, and Mahomes, wasn't anywhere near as good as Allen or Jackson. He wasn't even probably a top 3 quarterback, or maybe even top 5 quarterback in the regular season come 2024 season. But when it comes to those important moments, when it really matters, they find a way. And that is, what Tom Brady did for years as a Patriot was find ways to win. And other quarterbacks maybe don't have that same sort of part of their game. And I think there's a little bit of black magic involved probably in the Chiefs' wins, but you can't deny how good Mahomes has been, and that is what they got to beat. Until you beat him, you can't you wouldn't do anything really. And I think it's a shame that you're not in the NFC because I think in the NFC, I do feel like you'd have made at least 2 or 3 Super Bowls by now. Maybe even in a one-off game in a neutral venue, you might even have beat the Chiefs in those kind of games. But that is the biggest thing for me. It is getting that home field advantage, ultimately, finding a way to win that way.
I think the Bills have traditionally lent on their defensive scheme through the regular season, but when you get to the playoffs and you're deep into playing the absolute best teams who, as clutch as the Chiefs are, as creative as Mahomes are, you need to be leaning on great players. Scheme can only take you so far. At some point, it's the guy, one guy going up against another guy. And I think that's where we've been found out is we haven't had those top level guys on the defensive side of the ball to make the difference when it really matters.
Well, we mentioned home field advantage, and this leads on to our other points. Now, this is, of course, the last year they'll be playing home games at Highmark Stadium, as their new stadium is due to be officially open in 2026 ahead of that season. And I know I've spoken to you both about it before on the podcast about your thoughts on leaving the stadium and how you're going to feel. I know, David, when I was in your house, I remember looking at the book you had about the stadium and the history. I know how much it means to you, and you as well, Charlie. You've been to many Bills games over the years in Buffalo. We'll go to you first, David. As a native Buffalo man, you talked before, and the last time you talked about how much it's going to mean to you to leave, but is that feeling getting only stronger now, the sort of closer we get towards that final game?
Yeah, definitely. As exciting as it is, as when I'm out that way maybe once a week just to see the progress. I mean, it is exciting as things really starting to take shape and looking like an actual stadium. But the old guy across the street, 53 years young, and been in that building so many times, just in concerts as well. It'll be bittersweet for sure. If my girlfriend's with me, the times we're out there, I'll just kind of we're sitting at the stoplight. I'll just kind of look over and she'll be like, "It'll be okay." No, it won't be okay. It'll be emotional for sure. I think each opportunity, we got home games, which is great this year. I thought one was going to get moved, somewhere, and it's not. And I think the league just said, let's let those fans get as many games in that building as they can before they close the door. So and again, to recap, it's emotional. It's gonna be bittersweet. So that's why I said, give me to top it off, an AC championship game in that building. January would just be the icing on the cake to close that to close the place up.
You know what? That's actually, I think that will be the fitting end. I know, obviously, not everything goes the way you want it to, but I think certainly, if I'm just trying to imagine, the final home game being an AFC Championship game, or even divisional round playing the Chiefs, and you finally end that sort of long hoodoo. But I think certainly AFC Championship game, typically the cherry on the icing would be, a winning touchdown as clock expires. Like a Stephon Diggs, Minneapolis Miracle kind of moment, maybe with someone like Adolta Kincaid, or maybe someone else maybe has that moment. Maybe Khalil Shakir has a game-winning touchdown right at the end of the game, or even a field goal. The thought of the picture I have in my head of Bills fans celebrating reaching a Super Bowl in Highmark Stadium in the final ever game. I think that's, for me, you can't really ask for a more fitting end, unless it was the Super Bowl stadium. I think that's the nearest thing you have to that is that, and I think that would be the most fitting way to end your time there. And obviously, if you go on to win it as well, that would only add to the legacy of that final game.
Hang the banner in the new place, huh? That would be nice.
Yeah, what a way to, obviously the home team always gets the season opener. What a way to open a season if you have that Thursday night football game and you've got the banner going down on the new stadium. I don't know what it's even going to be called, but
it's Highmark still. Unfortunately,
name.
Yeah, they're keeping the sponsor. Yeah,
fair enough. Now, Charlie, of course, you've been to a lot of Bills games, and you have to make a long journey to get to Bills games. It's not exactly. I don't believe they have direct flights to Buffalo. You're someone that makes a long trip to go down there. If you're a dedicated fan, for you, what does it mean to you? Because you go to a lot of Bills games. So what's the sort of feeling behind that? And have you got how many games are you going to try and get to in 2026?
Yeah, it's it definitely hits. I think that when I started being a Bills fan, which is in the 90s, that was the stadium that was almost a mythical place to me. I would watch these crazy fans and these snow games, and I'm thousands and thousands of miles away on my own in my living room watching, the Bills go after Super Bowl after Super Bowl after Super Bowl. And, you can see behind me the Thurman Thomas jersey, that's how long I've been watching games at the stadium. And I remember my first ever trip to it. We typically call it the Ralph, that's I never really, Highmark never really stuck with me. Obviously after Ralph Wilson. And the first ever trip there, I remember I flew in for a game against the Dolphins, and I was there. I flew in on a Saturday, and I just thought I'd drive over to the stadium just to see it, go to the store. And as I'm driving up, I started to get emotional. I was like, wow, I never thought I'd actually make it here. This is a special moment for me to actually be here and to be in the stadium, this place I've been watching for, at that point, 20 years on TV. So it's a special place. But I think what makes it a special place is Bills Mafia, right? It's the fans, it's the people, and all the people that I've met over the years of watching Bills games here at London Bills backers or in the States. So and the good thing is the people are going to go across the street too. So it'll be nice to have a little bit more covering for the winter games. Maybe people get to sit down when it's really snowy. I think the atmosphere in the new stadium will be incredible, because I don't know if you've seen, Andy, it's quite similar to the Tottenham Stadium. It's pretty steep, so the crowd's much more on top of the field as opposed to how it is right now. It's always this big sprawling bowl. It's weird. The current stadium is kind of built into the ground, right? So you're driving it from outside, it doesn't look that big, and then you walk in, it's enormous. Whereas the new stadium is all above ground, and it looks really high. It's a pretty stark contrast to the current stadium. So I'm looking forward to the new place. I wish it had a few more seats. The fact that it's a little bit less seats than the current place sort of grates on me a little bit, especially given how good we are. And it just means that ticket prices are going to get even more expensive as we progress. But look, it's not going to go on for forever. And I think what they've designed and what they're building is as good as we can hope for. So yeah, I'm excited about the new place. But as Dave said, it's going to be bittersweet leaving. There's such an iconic venue, somewhere that Dave's older than me, but I've certainly been watching game's there for a very long time, and it's it's a special place. There's no two ways about it.
Right, let's head on to our final segment, which is for those of you who have watched the podcast for years will know what's coming up. It is our win-loss tie section. So every fan who comes on will give their record prediction going through each game, and they answer with the simple answer of win, loss, or tie. Now, you both came on last year in a two-parter. Do either of you remember what you predicted last year for your record?
I want to say, was it 13-4?
Well, in the answer, so you both went for a 12-5 record. In separate parts, you both went for the exact same record.
12-5.
And in the end, of course, the Bills did go in 2024 13-4. So you were fairly close. And you both predicted to go far in the playoffs. Now, Charlie, you had the divisional round, so you were one sort of below what the actual result was, which, of course, as mentioned before, was the AFC Championship. And then, David, you went for not only winning the NFC, so the AFC, but also you went for them winning the Super Bowl. So you had high hopes, which obviously were shut down. But this year, you're hoping for, that final hurrah at the Highmark Stadium. So as you're both on together, we're going to alternate. Our first game will go to Charlie. Now, the first game you've got is going to be a Sunday night football game, one of the best games of the season. We did an episode with Ben Isaacs previously where we talked about our top 10 most exciting games to look forward to in 2025, and that was voted by us number one. It is against the Ravens in Highmark Stadium on NBC. Charlie, win, loss, or tie?
I have this as a loss. Simply because the Ravens, we really struggled against them in the regular season. I think we got lucky against them in the divisional round. I think they might be the best team in the AFC right now, and they're just a little bit more set than we are. I mean, on any given Sunday, right, we can give them a game, but we're not going to win them all.
Fair enough. So week 2 is now with David, and your game to choose is a road game at the New York Jets. David, win, loss, or tie?
Well, coming off the predict Charlie them losing week 1, they're definitely not going to lose week 2. It's newly coached, Aaron Glenn and Justin Fields led New York Jets team. So I looked at it as a W.
So the third game is Thursday Night Football on Prime Video as the Bills host the Miami Dolphins. Charlie, win, loss, or tie?
Yeah, easy win, Andy. I mean,
I can't even deny it. I can't even sit there and think you're talking rubbish. I sadly,
Andy, I do this little off-season tradition where I watch the games back, and I watched the Bills play Miami last season, and what it struck me is that every time Tua went down the field, he was struggling. He was getting picked, and I don't know what it is that gets into Tua's head when he plays the Bills, but he just looked like a shambles. So until he proves he can do it, then
the thing is, well, we couldn't beat you, especially in Buffalo when our team was actually good, but now the team's looking a bit more shaky. I don't see any way that we win this game. You never know. Early part of the season, some teams have teething problems early on. Some teams take a while to get going, but you never know. And I do think we could surprise people in some way, maybe by sneaking into the playoffs. But I don't see it, especially in Buffalo. I don't see any chance of that happening. Week 4 is back with David. This is a home game for second week in a row. Second out of 3 straight home games. You're hosting the New Orleans Saints.
Another team coach, new identity, coming off a 10-day break at home against a team that's, I'd say by week 4, they're still trying to find their way or find their footing. I see a Bills win.
So week 5 is back with Charlie. It is what we're going to now call the Stephon Diggs Bowl, as Stephon Diggs returns to Buffalo to take on with the New England Patriots to take on the Bills. Win this on NBC. I believe that's on Sunday Night Football. Charlie, win, loss, or tie?
I got this as a win. I'm actually hoping to be at this game in person, so it better be a win. I do think the Patriots will be improved. Obviously, I think they've got an exciting young quarterback. I think they've probably improved their coaching situation, but it's also early in the season. They've had a lot of change. They've got a lot of new faces coming in, and you know how long it takes for teams to settle down. So they may well be the second best team in the AFC East, but I think the Bills will come out with a win.
So week 6, before your week 7 bye, is a game on Monday Night Football on ESPN as you travel to the Atlanta Falcons. David, win, loss, or tie?
This one, they might stub their toe in this one. I like the quarterback for it. We're in the dome, but it's going to be Buffalo South down there because, the next 2 games in Atlanta and Carolina. I look for a close Bills win on this one.
Okay, so then you have your week 7 bye. Going into week 8, back with you, Charlie. You have a road game against the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, I've got this down as a win. Obviously, the Panthers have had some struggles in recent years. I do think they've started to settle down a little bit. I think towards the end of last season, we started to see a little bit more of that quarterback than we were expecting. But, there's still very much a work in progress. That is definitely going to be Buffalo South. If anyone wants to look at some ticket prices, it's pretty crazy. There's a lot of Bills fans live in Charlotte. And so that'll be loud, packed full of Bills Mafia. And I've got it as a comfortable win for the Bills.
So
it's going to be Nashville. Real quick, let me think back. Mine is going to be like Nashville 2.0 from a couple seasons ago. So
yeah, it's an absolute takeover. Yeah,
be a circus down there.
So week 9 is the one we talked about previously in the episode. It is a game against the Chiefs at home. Now, David, big game, win, loss, or tie?
The two heavyweights go at it again. I mean, we seem to have their number in the regular season, and I think that'll continue. Another late afternoon Sunday game in that building. I mean, it's going to be by then playoff positioning. Will probably be starting up. So yeah, I look for a Bills win, another close one, kind of like last year, late drive.
So week 10 is a road game. It's in Miami against the Dolphins, of course, a game you were at last year, David. Charlie, win, loss, or tie?
Easy win. It's the Dolphins.
Yeah, I mean, even in Miami, I think he's only lost 2 games his whole career against the Dolphins. Josh Allen.
Yeah, you're not going to have the sun to help you bail you out this time either, where you put us on that hot sideline and have our players needing IVs just to stay hydrated. So I'm glad we got you in November.
Yeah, and I think as well you'll probably have it's on CBS. It'll probably be Tony Romo and Jim Nantz doing the game. And if anyone knows my beef with Tony Romo and Dolphins Bills games, there's a very clear favourite he has out of the 2 teams whenever they play each other. Because whenever we score a touchdown, it's like someone's killed his dog, and when you guys score a touchdown, it's almost like he's playing the game itself. So
he likes himself from Josh Allen. Does Tony?
It's frustrating because I like the man, but I just feel like when it comes to particularly Bills and Chiefs games, he just seems to get lost in the Mahomes and Allen magic. Week 11, back with you, David. It is a game at home to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Baker Mayfield. I mean, they got some offensive weapons on that team. We played them here, and it was a night game a couple seasons ago, and didn't look as sharp that night. But I don't put anything past Baker Mayfield. But again, you're in our building, and it's my birthday that day too. So I haven't had a game on my birthday in probably 15 years. So we'll throw that into the mix too. So Bills at home. It's mid-November. They'll start hitting their stride now.
So that game is going to be 1 p.m. Eastern, so you'll be having a fairly early start on your birthday that day.
Absolutely.
I'm sure Dave's at the tailgate pretty early, no matter what.
It's a good point. Yeah, my one is tailgating with David. It was it was an early start. So heading on to week 12, and back with you, Charlie. It's a road game in NRG Stadium against the Houston Texans.
Yeah, this is a tricky one. We lost there last year. Really didn't play our best football at all. That defense is really pretty talented, but I do have some big questions about that Houston offensive line. And I think the Bills will be gunning for Houston and want revenge on that. So I think it's going to be a tight game, but I fancy the Bills in that one to get some revenge from last year.
Okay, so David, with you for Week 13, 4:25 p.m. on CBS. You travel to the Pittsburgh Steelers and Aaron Rodgers to take on the Steelers.
The 65-year-old Aaron Rodgers. Again, another team that doesn't have the greatest offensive line in front of them, and I think they're put their chips on the table defensively. It's like, but I don't know. Again, he's 41, turning 42, not as mobile as he used to be, and if we're getting the guys back, the two guys that were going to be suspended the 6 games. I mean, again, another hitting their stride of a game. I think they could be really hitting on all cylinders going into Pittsburgh. So I see a Bills win.
Okay, so Week 14, which could be a sneaky AFC playoff game preview. It is at home to the Cincinnati Bengals. Charlie, win, loss, or tie?
On paper, I think we beat them, but I have the sneaking suspicion this is going to be a struggle for us. Burrow has played well against us when we've had the recent games. I was at the playoff game, where they absolutely crushed us in Buffalo. I do think that Cincinnati team has some flaws in it, and I do think this Bills team is more well-rounded, but we just seem to have a mental block when it comes to Cincinnati. I think Burrow is a very talented quarterback, and he knows how to exploit the scheme that we have. So you're not going to win them all, so I've got that down as a defeat.
I think as well, you playing in Week 14 compared to maybe Week 4 is a whole different prospect because
exactly. Later in the season when they've started to hit their stride, they're a better team then.
Yeah, I think that ultimately cost them last year in the race to the playoffs. I think if they'd made it into that final playoff spot, I do feel like they potentially could have caused some problems in the playoffs for some teams. But that defense, I think, will ultimately be their kryptonite at the moment and their offensive line. David, back to you. Week 15, you're traveling on the road. If you're penultimate game on the road in the regular season, taking on the New England Patriots.
Well, since they had them losing against Cincinnati, I can't see them losing 2 in a row. So I go with the Bills on this one. This one will be probably a tight of a game. I think out of the whole schedule this season, I think that one in New England the week before Christmas, I think that's going to be one of the tighter games of the season. I see the Bills, like a late push to win that one.
So Week 16 is, again, your final road game of the regular season. What you'll be hoping will be the final road game of the entire season. Will be a game against one of the worst quarterback rooms I've seen in a long time in the Cleveland Browns.
There's a lot of quarterbacks in it, though, Andy.
No one's good.
No one's good.
Ran out of room.
What's the old analogy? If you've got 2 quarterbacks, you don't have any. Well, they've got 5, and they definitely don't have any. So. I feel great about this one. You might be unsurprised to hear. Obviously, the Browns are really a work in progress. Nobody knows who's going to be playing quarterback for them at this point. I think it's a bit of a mess, to be honest. There'll also be plenty of Bills Mafia there. It's a drivable trip for the Bills and from Buffalo. So I feel pretty good about beating them and repeating what we did last time we played the Browns, which was bizarrely in Detroit.
Yeah, I remember that. That was a week before I met you, David. That was the whole incident that caused Charlie to reach out to many Bills Mafia, including Kristen, and that's how I met David. So that year is quite a nice segue into how we met. If it wasn't for that game being snowed off, I may never had the issue of travel. I may never have got in the car with a random Bills fan. I may never have stayed in that house with David. So yeah, it's all round. It's funny how the lines connect on that one.
Fantastic.
So week 17 is our penultimate game, and it is against the current reigning Super Bowl champions in the Philadelphia Eagles. David, with you on this one. Your final prediction of the episode. Are you winning, losing, or tying this game?
So you're looking at late in the year, both teams could have a division wrapped up. They could have, even, I wouldn't say the number one seed locked up for either team, but I think the Bills are they're strong at home. Obviously, they're home the last two. I see another tight, Bills win. You got the Super Bowl champs coming in there. I think they'll be motivated for that, just to see how up to par they are against the champs, and that's always a big motivational thing. So I see Bills win.
Okay, so finally, week 18 is your final home game of the regular season. You never know. I doubt it's going to happen. This could be your final ever game at Highmark. If the season goes that badly, this could be your final ever game, which I don't think there's any chance at all that you would not make the playoffs in this season. But no one thought the Niners would miss out on the playoffs, and so injuries could happen. Allen could go down, so this could be the final home game ever.
You're wish casting here, Andy.
Oh yeah.
any little glimmer of hope.
To be fair, though, I think even if that was the case, where I still think we wouldn't win the division, I think the Patriots would win it. so if the Bills have an awful season, I see the Patriots with Mike Vrabel doing it more than us. So I kind of, in a way, I'd rather see you guys win it than the Patriots, because Patriots have been, they've won enough.
They're less annoying, is what you're grasping for.
What I want is, obviously, I want us to win the division, but I don't want any of them winning the division. But I think, having got to know you two especially, I'm not against the Bills winning that division, if anyone else other than us. But yeah, David.
Last game of the season is always a tricky one, right? Because last season we had the division and the position in the conference already sewn up, so we played our second string for as long as we could against the Patriots until they looked a bit too good, and then brought in our third string quarterback to make sure that we definitely didn't win, and they definitely didn't get the first pick in the draft. So, let's assume that we have something to play for. I feel pretty good about beating this Jets team, and providing we're going in with our starting team, which I think is the only thing we can forecast right now. Then I think it's a Bills win to set up hopefully a 1 seed and a nice week off.
Well, with the 15-2 record, which is what you predicted, you would think that is there's a very good chance that you'll be winning the AFC first seed with that. You had last year, for the first time ever, 2 teams on 14 wins on the last day of the season, trying to fight out for that final 15th win. So it's very rare a team will have 14 wins and not win the conference, let alone 15 wins. So with that kind of record, you would all but assume that you're going to make the playoffs as the first seed, so you get a playoff bye. David, with you first, how far do you think the Bills will go this season when they make the playoffs with that 15-2 record?
Well, you said it, that locks up the 1 seed. I hate saying poor boss, but with this roster and this window with this quarterback, it's Super Bowl or boss pretty much. You get a 1 seed, you got to go. You got to go to Santa Clara and play for the title. And a quick trivia, FYI with the Jets game. Charlie, you may know this. The first regular season game in that stadium in September of '73 was against the Jets. And it wasn't Joe Namath. And Joe Namath was on that roster, but he did not start that game. Actually, he didn't play that game. I think he was nicked up because that was week 3 of that year, and that was the home opener. 3 weeks. And Joe Namath did not play that game. So just something to kind of store away in your memory bank if somebody says, hey, Who was the first game the Bills played in that building? The regular season, not the preseason. So, little thought.
Well, yeah, that is a good little trivia there. That is something I did not know. So, yeah, for those listening at home, you may not have known that either. There you are. Now we know. Now we know that little trivia question. So, David, you've gone for the Super Bowl. Charlie, how far do you think the Bills go for you?
Yeah, I think if we go 15-2, then I think we go to the Super Bowl. One-off game, you never know, right? You don't know who you're going to be playing, and who knows. But and I hate that Santa Clara Stadium as well. But I'll take a Super Bowl any which way we can. I think this Bills team is better in all the areas where it's important. That compared to last season, we bring back this fantastic offensive line, the best offensive line Josh Allen has had. We bring back this really great running game. I think we've improved the wide receiver room, and we've improved the defensive line. So, I'm looking around. I'm going, well, this is going to be a better team. We'll also see another year under Joe Brady's cap, and I think he's shown to be very creative to be able to exploit the weapons that we have. There's no real superstars on the offensive side of the ball, and yet that was the highest scoring Bills offense in Bills history last year. So that just goes to show what he can do, and I think with even better weapons, and I think it's an exciting prospect. So yeah, it's never, you never say you expect a Super Bowl, but I'm optimistic we've got a great chance this year.
Well, finally, before we do go, we are introducing a new segment to the season previews. Now, I realise I haven't told any of you about this, but we're going to do a thing where the previous guest asks the next guest a question. So it could be either of you. I'll let you decide amongst yourselves who asked this question. But basically, you'll ask a question, and then the next guest will answer that, and then they'll ask a question for the next guest. So it could be about the Bills, could be about NFL in general, could be anything you want as NFL related. Give us a question to ask the next guest.
So this is the next guest on your show that we don't know, right?
Yeah, and normally I'd love to say, it's going to be this team, but things do happen with recording. Like, see people get plans out the window, something happens. So we have times before in previous years where people will be planned to come on, and I say it's going to be that team, and then something happens beyond their control, and we have to jig around. So it could be anyone, and we'd like to keep the surprise going.
I've got a question for you. Which quarterback in the league is most underrated right now?
So which is most great? So that will be asked to our next question, next team, I should say. So find out who our next guest, what their answer is in the following episode. But in the meantime, that is the end of our first of 32 season previews with the Buffalo Bills. So first of all, Charlie, David, thank you for coming on.
Hey, you're welcome. Thanks. Good to be with you, Andy. Good to meet you, Dave.
To you guys, thanks for having me on as always. Charlie, are you doing the Patriots game here? Is that?
Yeah, maybe the Saints as well. So let me know where you tailgate, and I'll come find you.
Yeah, reach out to me prior, and I'll tell you where we're at, and I'd love to have you.
Sounds great. Look forward to it.
Great stuff. Well, that is a very nice way to end the episode. This has been the Across the Pod NFL podcast, our Buffalo Bills 2025 season preview. I have been, as ever, your guest, Andy Davis, with our guest today in Bills fans, Charlie Nelson from Bills from Afar, and also Dave Kaprosch, or Captain Dave from Hit the Showers. And we will see you guys for our next team season preview. Take care.